There's an overall perception about Dutton as well when you look at the polling that says that he understands the big issues better than the Prime Minister. I think he appears to have a bit of strength. And Joe mentioned before about Western Sydney. He set his sights on Western Sydney now with a plan to take seats away from Labor at the next federal election. He's already visited the area 8 times this year, which is double what he did last year, and 2022 he only visited twice. So clearly the push is on to get the message out in Western Sydney. He told the Sunday Telegraph, Dutton that is, the Liberal Party has Western Sydney's back, whereas the Albanese government has completely failed it. It makes sense, and I've been saying this for a while, a long time, Kel, that the problem for the Labor Party, of course, is that they get the pull from the left, and do they go and chase the inner city votes that they're losing to the Greens, or do they try and retain what they've got sitting in places like Western Sydney, suburban Australia? And the Libs have kind of had that same push and pull thing going on with losing seats to the Teals in the inner city. Why don't they just go after the people that Labor has left behind? We talk about Howard's battlers back in the day. Yep. Go back to a Howard's battlers model. We want suburban Australia. They're our people.
It's not just Australia. Globally, there's been a political geographical shift where parties of the left have switched to represent the leafy suburbs and the upper middle class, and the parties of the left have abandoned the working class, and conservative parties are discovering that the people who really think the same as they do are the working class. The point Joe was making, working class people tend to be conservative. They're socially conservative. It is working class people who don't want men to play against women in women's sports or go into women's change rooms. That's the kind of thing that you'll find amongst working class people, and Labor no longer speaks for them. And Labor can't speak for them any longer. Now, whether the Liberals need to give up on the Teals or not, I don't know. Those particular seats, it may be they have to, but they need to recognise that the people whose hearts are with them are the people who like to conserve things, who there's a whole lot of stuff they don't want chucked out. They don't want family values chucked out. They don't want, their kids sent to school and told that, you can be a girl on Wednesday if you'd like to be. If you that really appeals to you.
I want to be a girl on Tuesday. Why Wednesday?
No, it's a boy day. I'm sorry, the next day is a girl day. But they don't want any of that nonsense, and they know that it's taken over the education systems, it's taken over the whole of the woke establishment, and this is a party and this is a leader who's saying to them, no, we're listening to you, we're sensible, we have much the same common sense as you have, we identify with you. I think those people may end up putting Peter Dutton in the lodge.
What do you think of it as a political strategy, Pamela?
Look, first of all, yes, going after people in Western Sydney, or rather serving the electorate, as I like to call it, is a great idea. I think that what you'll find, though, is that all electorates are splintering more. So Western Sydney is not the easy proposition that people like to talk about it for the Liberal Party, because, of course, it is also split culturally. So Western Sydney is where a lot of the protesters, the pro-Palestinian protesters come from. Western Sydney is where these new parties sort of focused around religion are emerging. So Western Sydney is just as splintered as the Teal seats, as, all of these other areas. And what's happening is that in each of the seats, people are splitting off. So, Labor now has issues with the Teals are stealing their vote and the Greens are stealing their vote. The Liberal Party has issues with different parties sort of chipping off bits and pieces here and there. So things are much more fragmented, which makes it a much more difficult play to say, we are just going to go for this seat and forget that seat. Instead of that, what you have to do is find points of conviction to unify the maximum number of people around. Now, with compulsory voting, once again, we have all of the best of that and the worst of that. But on balance, I would say that it's a really good thing that you have to remember everybody in the electorate when you're making your pitch.
It does. The truth is both parties, ironically, are undergoing the exact same identity crisis, and they're both going after these traditional outer suburban and regional seats with one hand tied behind their back. For the Libs, it's the Teals. For Labor, it's the Greens. And there is a very strong school of thought among Labor, just as there is among the Libs, that you should just F them right off. Forget about the Greens. They're going to come for those inner city seats anyway.
Exactly.
And you
They're a
rush
lost
to the
cause.
you rush to the centre. You rush to
100%.
mainstream Australia, because the first party that can actually adequately capture that vote and speak for that big sort of broad cross section that Parnell's talking about will rule for 1,000 years.
Exactly. Forget about the loonies.
And that's right.
Leave all
So
the
catering to the
loonies
noisy,
behind.
chattering classes.
Exactly.
That's right. It will only hurt you. And again, the Greens have
correct.
said that they just want to keep Labor alive as a kind of blood bag long enough until they can come in over the top.
It doesn't win you elections. Elections are won in swing seats, and that's not a fight between the Teals and the Greens. It's Labor and Liberal. They're who you need to go after.